Good morning. So it's kind of like a refresh, going back to the beginning. And then obviously if you guys have questions, you could always hit me up. All right, so let's just get right to this. Going to be working on the hand. So for those of you guys that got a hand this week, the nice thing is that the tips that they come with are assorted, right? So there's a box of assorted tips, but when you get the refills are just like this. They're basically long practice tips. And what I usually like to do with these is I'll go ahead and clip off a majority of the back end, because people ask me all the time, how do you make them so smooth? Well, I clip off the back, and then what I'll end up doing is filing around the edges so that they're totally smooth. And then basically once they're like this, then what I could do is I can click them into the hand a few times. So you can hear there's 1 click, 2, then I try to get in for 3. And then what that will do is it will basically create a really nice smooth cuticle area that you could work off of, okay? So once I have that in, one of the first things we do usually on day 1 of our 1-week course, for those of you guys that have participated in the 1-week courses before, it's 5 days of intense training. As soon as the world kind of gets a hold of COVID, then we will open the doors and start doing the 1-week course again. So really excited about getting those hopefully going, sometime next year. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and replicate pushing back cuticles, right? And then once we're done doing that, we're going to go ahead and remove shine. So for those of you guys that got yourself a new electric file, you're going to notice that we have a variable speed control. And what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to set this at 3,000 RPM. So for those of you guys that are right-handed, you're going to be working in forward. It's set to forward. There's an on and off switch on the back here. Once you turn the machine on, you physically don't have to turn it off anymore. You can turn it on by hitting the power button and hitting it off. Turn the power button, turning it off. I'm going to set this at 3,000 RPMs. That's the speed you want. I'm going to go ahead and motor on. And what this is going to do is this is going to allow me to work in one direction. So, you can't. For those of you guys that are right-handed, you want to work in forward. For those of you guys who are left-handed, you want to work in reverse. And the reason why is because when we are removing shine from the surface of the nail, right, we're not doing it like this. I want to show you guys from afar. First of all, I don't hold the hand like this when I work, right? I don't hold the hand like this because when you hold the hand like this, there's a lot of pressure in your hand. And what ends up happening is, and I know some of you guys have seen it, but if you're going side to side, what ends up happening is the bit will end up slipping around the edge. So going side to side is not how you remove shine. So what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to create an overgrip position. So if the hand is laying down flat and you basically have your thumb to the side, just like this, what this will do is it'll also prevent your client from trying to stare up at their finger while you're working. Put them in that G.I. Joe Kung Fu grip, right? You can position your finger on the opposite side like you're shaking your thumb, and this is going to allow you to gently come around the perimeter of the nail in one direction, right? So you can see how well I'm actually able to tickle away the shine. Some of you guys are probably wondering how much pressure I use. This is the inside of my wrist. I'm literally tickling the inside of my wrist. That is how gentle the pressure is. It's the same pressure that you're going to be using when you're removing shine from the surface of the nail. I don't need to put any pressure. I just need to feather. So you can see my hand, right? I rest my hand. You can see I'm just lightly feathering. That is the motion I'm using when I'm actually feathering away the shine from the surface of the nail, right? It's not just effective. It's the most efficient way to do this. A lot of you guys who are in school, if you've learned that taking your hand file and prepping the nail, like this right here is the sucker way of doing it. This doesn't work. Like you're not gonna be able to prep anything going in one direction. This takes forever, and it's obviously very unproductive, right? If you don't have a hand file, okay, well then what you'll have to do is if you have only a hand file, you don't have an electric file, you have to take your edges down, right? I'm going to show you with a 150 grit file. This is the medium file. So what we want to be able to do is lightly come around the cuticle. I'm putting zero pressure. All I'm doing is letting the hand file kind of float around the edges, as you can see. And then what you can see is I could literally come down, and then all I'm doing is removing shine. There's no like going in one direction. I'm using the surface of the hand file to remove shine thoroughly from the perimeter of the nail. That is what we want to be able to accomplish. And so we're getting the same results. This is just a lot slower. But again, I'm using, the only difference between using an arbor band, right, the zebra arbor band compared to the zebra file is this is cylindrical, and this is going to do all the work for me instead of me manually having to remove shine from the surface of the nail. So I'm creating texture, and that's what we want to be able to do. That's how you're going to get your enhancements to bond really, really well. Okay, so for those of you guys that got kits, for those of you guys that don't know what this is Swipe. This is your cleanser. So for those of you guys that just got a kit this weekend, this is what you're going to be using to clean the nail. You could use the manicure brush in the kit to basically kind of dust away the shine from the surface. For those of you guys that got the lint-free wipes, these are awesome because they don't have Furbies hanging off of them. You're going to be able to pump the surface, and you're going to be able to use this to go ahead and clean the surface of the natural nail before you start any type of before you apply your prep. So protein bond is the ultimate. It's number one in the world. This is what you're going to apply. That's going to eliminate any type of lifting. And you want to be able to apply 2 coats. So this works with everything. It works with all acrylics. It works with all gels. It works with all gel polishes. I mean, it works with everything. So you're going to basically put 2 coats down just like this. Then after you're done doing all 10 nails, what you're going to do is you're going to come back and you're going to apply 1 more coat. 2 coats is going to ensure that you're not going to have, it's insurance, right? It's basically insurance that you don't have any problems. But that's not the guarantee. That's just one. You have to remember what prevents lifting is a combination of 3 things, right? Good prep, good application, and good finishing. You need all 3 in order for you to do that, okay? So if we are going to be applying acrylic, then the most important thing is understanding how to do the overlay. So what I'll usually do is I'll start all of my I usually like to start off all of my students with a cover pink or a cover peach, but I have some new cover flamingo, so I'll just go ahead and use this. You have to master the overlay. In order to master the overlay, you have to master picking up the product. So it doesn't matter. Look, if I'm working with cover flamingo to clear, right? There's 2, this is speed clear, this is cover flamingo. Okay, so it doesn't matter what you're working with, right? If I submerge my brush and I bounce into the surface of the powder, I'm going to be able to pick up a nice fluffy bead on one side. Okay, for those of you guys that are working with smaller brushes, it doesn't matter what brush you work with. The key is when you dip your brush when you submerge your brush inside your dish and you have a lot of liquid, you don't want to pull it off of multiple sides of your brush, because then if you try to bounce inside your powder, what you're going to be left with is a booger. I mean, dude, you're not going to be able to pick up jack, right? You're going to pick up something nasty. What you want to be able to do is you need, again, if you submerge your brush and you have a lot of liquid and you barely touch the side, you're going to notice that you see the angle that I'm at. So I'm not flat. I'm literally coming at an angle. So if I come in at an angle and I press and I bounce, 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 and then I turn my brush over, right, you're going to see that I'm going to get a really nice fluffy bead. That's what we want. And you'll notice the same thing when I'm actually working with this speed powder. It's the same thing. If I submerge my brush and I barely touch the side, and then I press, and I'm literally bouncing into the surface, you're going to notice that. And I like to turn my brush over, that way the liquid kind of settles down towards the base, and then you're going to notice that if I have a bead that looks like this is going to be very, very easy for me to release it without it sticking to my brush. That's huge. If you are a beginner and you don't know how to pick up powder, because there's a lot of people that teach it, there's a lot of instructors out there, or so-called instructors, who like to teach like water skiing across the surface. So what they'll teach you how to do is take your brush and pull a lot of it off the base, and then you're water skiing across the surface of the nail. So like, to me, it's very dry around the edges. You're not going to get a really, really big bead. In order for you to get a massive pearl, what you have to be able to do, and don't be afraid to get a lot of liquid, you have to be able to bounce into the surface. So you notice how deep I bounced in the surface to be able to get a bead just like that. This is not bouncing. Taking your brush and holding it in the surface like this, like you're holding your breath and you're hoping that you're going to pick it up. Oh my gosh, if I just wait a little bit longer, what's going to end up happening is this. You're going to end up like getting it stuck inside your powder, and you're not going to be able to get it out. And then you're like, you know what? I can go. Dude, whoa, I got an asteroid, right? You don't want to pick up an asteroid out of your powder, because that is not going to work. The consistency that you need, it has to be able to melt really, really fast. So you'll notice that if I bounce inside the powder, then I turn it over, and immediately you're going to notice how everything melts quite fast. That's the consistency that you need so that everything flows, especially when you're doing overlays. So, as a beginner, you don't want boogers and you don't want asteroids. What you want is a nice flow. And how you're going to be able to do that is by, again, submersing your brush, tapping it, bounce, bounce, bounce. Give it a couple of seconds. And then when you go ahead and you set it to the back, you need a consistency that's going to be able to move so that you could focus your attention on trying to get your edges tight, right? So you'll notice that everything is running. It's running this way because I'm holding the finger like this. Like I'm literally holding it to the sides. So once it gets to this point, kind of ran off course, but that's okay. Like you'll notice that I really didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to guide it. It guided itself all the way down to the edges. All I have to do is kind of hold it in place, right? So that everything flows tight this way, this way, this way. So once it gets down to a point, and it like, how do I prevent it from rolling underneath the edges? We have to stop it. You have to use your brush as kind of a backdrop, and you're going to kind of have to hold it in place, right? Every time I take my brush and I dry it off, then any liquid that's on the surface of your powder is going to kind of absorb into the brush. And what I'm really, really doing is just holding. You guys are going to notice a lot of the work that I do, right? I really focus my attention on trying to hold the product in place. I'm going to go ahead and remove this and show you guys. So it's very difficult if you have a bead. Like I'll show you guys. So for those of you guys that are graduating to a faster product, speed clear is definitely it, right? And you'll notice if you take your brush, you're like, okay, Greg, I got a lot of liquid. I'm going to go ahead and take it, all right? And then I'm going to go ahead and bounce. Dude, oh man, I got myself an awesome bead. And then you do this, and you take your bead and you drain out the liquid because you don't like the run. And then you go ahead and then you set it to the very, very back, and you're like, how come it's not moving? Okay, that's like, okay, you have enough self-leveling characteristic to move it to the side, but even if you're juggling it, like you'll notice if I juggle it to the sides, it's kind of just staying in place, right? Do I want it to a point where I'm going to have to, because at this point I'm going to have to physically have to use the body of my brush to really start to work it down. Excuse me. Which again is possible, but you know, the consistency that I'd like for you to be able to work with is it flows. The temperature in here is really, really cool. It's 65 degrees inside here. That's usually a little bit too cold for the acrylic. It's going to take a little bit longer for it to set. This consistency that I'd like for you guys to be able to do is, especially when you're doing sculpture nails, is you want to be able to get a bead and then again watch. So if I pick it up and then I count 3, 4, 5, and now I go ahead and set this down, I have enough self-leveling characteristic around the cuticle area, and then what I can do is just lightly kind of touch, just touch. So I can get the product to flow without having to force it. All I'm touching, because there's a lot of liquid in the surface. It's a nice smile line right there, and I haven't done anything. So when it gets to the point that it's getting close to the edge, I can kind of brush that forward. And what that forces it, you can see from the side profile, it creates a natural arch. And that's what you want to be able to do. So if there isn't enough product here in the front, then what you'll be able to do is use your brush to kind of just push this into place, right? And that it's a very, very light touch. So if it rolls underneath, prevent it, stop it, hold it, prevent it. You want to be able to master your overlays. This is really, really important, because what you're doing is you're mastering application around here. Most of the problems that occur are around here, right? They're not around the front end, right? So that's what it comes down to. I wanted to share that with you guys today, because for those of you guys that are just getting an electric file, we have to go over the fundamentals. Nail School with Greg Salo. Woo! All right. Thank you guys. Hope everyone is good. Really appreciate it. Love you guys much. Thanks a million. Talk to you soon. Peace.